At 3 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang. It was the community in Guayaquil, and they told us that there had been a really big earthquake, that the school building in Playa Prieta had collapsed with the sisters inside. The first thing that came to my mind was, I have to wake up all the sisters to pray.
The next day, we first received news that they were all out.
But later, in another phone call, we were told that not all of the sisters were out, but only 3 sisters and 2 girls, and that 5 girls and Sister Clare were still missing.
When I heard that she was the only one missing, I said, they're not going to find her alive. Because you could tell that she was already prepared, that her heart was no longer attached to the things down here. She was way above all this.
So many memories come to mind. When she first arrived to the community, her novitiate, her first vows, her time in the different communities. There are so many memories that come to mind.
Ever since I met Sister Clare, I was always impressed by how clearly she would hear the voice of God speaking in her heart, in her soul, and also by how quickly and with what generosity she responded to him.
She couldn't do things halfway. When she did something, she did it to the best of her ability, with all of her strength, keeping nothing back for herself.
When I saw Sister Clare do things, she really was all or nothing.
My name is Sister Clare. I'm from Ireland, from a wee town called Derry. Ever since I was little, I don't know why, but I always had this desire to be famous. I studied theatre, I wrote theatre, I directed.
Clare was a drama queen, always was from the day in her she was born.
Brilliant. She got on with anybody. She could mix with anybody in the world, like just so kind and very good personality. Always had people around her, always.
She had the best personality, full of life. If you met her, you just got on with her straight away. Nothing bothered her. She just took everything in her stride.
She was so lively, bubbly, always upbeat. When she was in a class, she had a way, her presence just took over the class. Everyone enjoyed her. Everyone wanted and loved to be in her company.
I'm from Catholic there, but my family aren't Catholic for religious reasons. It's for political reasons. Because in the north of Ireland, well, there's a lot of problems, Catholics against the Protestants. But they're not fighting for religious reasons. They fight politically because the Catholics want a united Ireland, and the Protestants want to be joined on the Protestants.
It's more a question of politics. I'm Irish too, same as Sister Clare. I'm a lot older than her. She was born in Derry City in the north of Ireland. I was born in Cork City in the south of Ireland. Even in my own childhood, I remember 6 or 7 years, I would have been 7 when Bloody Sunday happened, and the tension in the air, I remember that clearly. In 1980, I would have been 15, and we lived the hunger strike of the Republican Catholic prisoners looking for political status as prisoners, which was denied to them. I remember there was a lot of anger, murderous hatred that was in the air at the time. And the two centres of tension, the two great centres of tension, would have been the Falls Road in Belfast and the Bogside in Derry, which is right next to the Brandywell, which is where Sister Clare was from.
There was a lot of violence here, and you couldn't just walk down the street.
If you heard shooting, you knew that they knew to lie down on the ground. If you heard a bomb going off and it seemed to be close, their father used to go out and get them. Because he didn't know. You know, he didn't know just what would happen. And Clare seen a soldier being blew up. She's come from school. So that's the environment.
The statistics are that of sociological studies and so on, that the rates of vandalism, of illiteracy, of violence, of unemployment, of homelessness among the youths and young adults of Derry throughout that time were higher than anywhere else in Ireland or Britain. So the legacy of destruction is something that she would have lived, you know, very close up. What I find extraordinary is that she transcended all of that, if you like, just on a natural level. Just by the sheer talent, abundance of natural talent, she succeeded in opening her wings, so to speak, and surpassing all of that, escaping it.
School, everybody talked about. You know, when school shows and schools got, because she was always brilliant. She always had the lead role, but she was brilliant. She loved her acting, like everything was about her acting.
Oh, every day of her life was about being an actress.
It's not something that just happened, it was done her whole life. That was her. And then she was doing something in school, and there was agent was up the school and seen her. He said, would you come, you know, do my acting classes? And she went, and she got parts, you know, in films and advertisements.
At the age of 15, she had that position as a presenter on a program for young people on Channel 4, out of nothing. You know, we're not talking about nowadays, it's kind of a closed shop often. The children of famous people get to become actors and singers and so on, just kind of feeding off the legacy of those who went before them and kind of blazed the trail. But in Sister Clare's case, it was pure, natural talent and lots of it. And not only as acting, singing and comedy, she had it all. How did she walk away from all of that? That's why I mention this, because it becomes even more amazing. The fact that having escaped difficult circumstances because of her talent, and having gotten on that inside track to fame and success and prosperity, you know, money and lots of it, and attention, that she was able to walk away from all of that.
En mi vida siempre ha sido o todo o nada, o actriz famosa o nada, o blanco y negro, ¿no? Y también se puede decir que he buscado el amor en sitios donde no lo he encontrado. He tenido novios, he tenido muchas amigas, amigos, mucho éxito en el campo del teatro, he hecho una película, presentadora y todo esto, ¿no? Pero yo sentí que no me llenaba.
In the late 1990s, the year 2000, around that time, the Home of the Mother asked could they come and speak to our youth group. I agreed instantly that the priests and sisters could come and speak to our group. As a result of that, Sister Clare was invited to go to Spain.
When I was 17, I started drinking, and I liked to party, I smoked, all that kind of stuff. And one time, one of my friends, her name was Sharon, she called me up and she said, Claire, do you want to go to Spain? Because there was this free trip to Spain. And she told me that there was going to be a group of people that were going. She said, all the people that are going to go to Spain are going to meet up in this house next week. I said that I would go, that I was going to go to Spain, and I thought we were going to go to Spain to party. That's what I thought. I thought we were going to go to a place called Ibiza. She didn't say that to me, but that's what I thought in my head. That we were going to go there, we were going to party, we were going to drink, all that kind of stuff.
A few weeks before the trip, everything was booked and arranged, and a few weeks before, my appendix perforated, helping my mommy put up curtains. Wasn't able to go, obviously, I was in recovery. So I decided, you know, one of them approached me and said, would you like anyone to go in your place? So the first person that came to mind was Clare.
She thought it was party, party, party. My mom is not here, my dad is not here.
We went to Ireland to meet with a group of people from Derry who were going to come down to our Holy Week retreat. It was during this meeting in Derry with us that she realized that it was a pilgrimage and not a tourist trip to Spain.
You opened the door and there was this group of people, about 20, 30 people. They were 40, 50, 60 years old, all sitting there with rosaries. Are you all going to Spain? And they say, yeah, we're going to the pilgrimage. And you're going to what?
Let's just say she came a little reluctantly.
Now looking back in hindsight, was not a coincidence. It was definitely a God incident. This was a last-minute replacement.
In the Home of the Mother, we usually have what we call a Holy Week encounter. That year, we got together in Priego, Spain, and a small group of young girls came from Ireland. One of them was Clare Crockett, a very lively girl, very energetic. and very sure of herself.
Muy segura de sí misma.
Rambunctious, very rowdy. She loved to make others laugh, but she didn't like to think.
I looked out the window and I saw Clare Crockett there, sunbathing, and it wasn't even hot.
But I do remember how the first impression that you might have had of her, of being superficial, wasn't authentic. Rather, she was a person that truly sought the truth.
Una persona que se rendía ante la verdad. Whenever Father Raphael would speak, she was completely receptive. She was really listening.
Good Friday came, and they said, Claire, you have to go. Today's Good Friday. Our Lord died for us. You have to go. Blah, blah, blah. So I went in. I said, fine. I sat on the back bench of the church, and they said, Claire, you have to get up and kiss the cross. You know, everybody's doing it. Get up. I said, kiss the cross. Get up, Claire, you gotta kiss the cross. So I got up because everybody else was doing it, and I remember standing in line, waiting to kiss the cross, and didn't mean anything to me.
I went up, and as I went to kiss the feet of our Lord, I remember looking at him, and in that moment I just felt the mercy of God, and I saw that it was my sins that nailed our Lord to the cross. Now, no one had ever told me that, but looking at our Lord on the cross, I just saw that they were my sins that nailed him to the cross, and I just started crying and crying.
For my drunkenness, for my impurity, for my vanity, for everything, I seen him nailed on the cross for that these were the nails, that I nailed him to the cross. It was my fault. And seeing this, and seeing the love that he had for me, that died on the cross for me, I was like, I have to change. I can't go on loving the way I'm loving.
I went up to her and I asked her how she was doing. She looked at me and she responded, "He loves me, he died for me." Then I asked her, "Are you okay?" And she kept repeating that over and over again. So I asked her if she wanted to speak with Father Raphael, and she said yes.
We went to the sacristy, and it was then that I asked her. And right away, she said that she wanted to be a nun. I told her that to become a nun like the sisters, that she would have to come back. And she said, well, I'll come back.
But she had a problem because she also wanted to be famous, and so she said that she could be a famous nun. Later, she told everyone this.
Today we were talking about vocations, and I was thinking, oh my God, I've got a vocation, that I want to become famous. An hour ago, I want to become a nun too. So then I said to myself, I'll become a famous nun. So I don't know what to do with myself now. I could become really famous and be really rich. Or I could come here and I'm praying to God that I make the right decision. Gracias!
Initially, she struggled with her two vocations, because I have to be a nun and I have to be famous, so the solution is I'm going to be a famous nun. But as she went further and further into the journey, the whole fame thing became less and less important to her, and it was totally eclipsed by the vocation to just love and to live and proclaim the truth. And that was all she cared about in the end.
She went back to Ireland, of course, when Holy Week was over, and some of the sisters said, she won't come back. But I said, yes, she'll come back.
Afterwards, she came on a pilgrimage to Rome that Father invited her to. He was very interested in her coming, and he invited her, and she came on the pilgrimage to Rome. And of course, she came with the attitude of a normal girl, superficial and fooling around. She spoke about having a vocation, and what surprised me the most was that Father Raphael took her seriously. He saw something in her and trusted her, and he really did believe that she had a vocation.
Are you camera me? Can you see me now? Can you hear this all there? That's all! Is that alright?
We ended up going to the Home of the Mother together on a pilgrimage for 3 weeks. And I feel very privileged because I was there for what I think was the light bulb moment in Clare's journey.
Santa Clara de Asís. Hoy es su santo. It's my saint's feast day today, St. Clare of Assisi. Adios.
Our Lord said to me, Claire, I want you to live like one of the sisters. I want you to live in poverty, chastity, and obedience. I think it was that moment that my eyes started twitching like that. And I said, Lord, I can't do that. I can't be poor. And I was giving them all these reasons that I couldn't live like a sister. I couldn't do that. That it was impossible. I was going to be famous. God, did you not know I was going to be famous? But I remember our Lord saying to me, if I ask you to do this, I'll give you the strength and the grace to be able to do it.
That light bulb moment was the start of her realising that this was something within her that she really desired, that this was what her life purpose was. I remember one of the sisters telling us about how before she had became a nun, she had gone out with boys and done the whole thing. And I remember that being a great giggle between us because Clare was fond of the boys and having a wee drink as well and having a wee smoke, and it was like, oh God, I'm going to have to give all this up. I don't know if this is going to be as easy as I thought.
She came every 2 seconds, and since I didn't know English, Sister Elena came to translate. So she came smoking, and she smoked like this, and said, I'm going to become a nun, and I'm going to be a famous nun. I told her, well, yes, I think that you're going to become a famous nun, but to become a famous nun, you will have to be the most humble, and to be the most humble, you will have to learn to obey. Then she took a puff of her cigarette and said, well then, I'll obey. That was the kind of character that Sister had. You see, she had a character of totality.